who's actually getting the most out of the ASUS TUF A16, and who would be better off putting that money towards something else. If you're on the fence because you've seen the hype about a Ryzen 5 beating an i7-10875H and you're wondering whether the price tag makes sense for a regular gamer or a creator who just needs a solid workhorse, you're not alone. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The real question is whether the combination of a 4050 GPU, 32GB of DDR5, and a 1TB PCIe SSD translates into day-to-day value, or if you end up paying for specs that you'll never really tap. First off, the laptop lands in the mid-range gaming segment, which means it's trying to balance performance and portability without stepping into the premium price bracket. That balance creates a few trade-offs that matter when you actually sit down to edit a video or drop into a fast-paced shooter. The 16-inch WUXGA panel runs at 144 Hz, so the visual fluidity is there for titles like Valorant or Fortnite, but the resolution isn't 1080+ wide, it's 1920x1200. That extra vertical space is nice for multitasking. Think having a chat window open above a game, but it also means the pixel density is lower than a true 1080p display. If you're used to crisp, pixel-perfect textures, you'll notice a bit of softness, especially on larger monitors you might pair with it for content creation. The heart of the machine is the AMD Ryzen 5 7535HS. It's a 7nm chip with 8 cores and 16 threads, built to squeeze out performance while staying cooler than many older Intel series CPUs. In practice, you'll see that it handles modern titles at medium-high settings without throttling, and it keeps up with Photoshop or DaVinci Resolve when you're cutting together clips for YouTube. What's surprising is how the chip compares to the older i7-10875H that shows up in a lot of last-generation gaming rigs. Benchmarks from independent reviewers show the Ryzen 5 pulling ahead in both single-core and multi-core workloads, so you're not sacrificing raw power for a lower price. That's a concrete win for anyone who wants decent gaming performance and also needs to run rendering jobs on the side. Now, the RTX 4050 is the GPU that most people zero in on. It's not a 4070, but it does support ray tracing and DLSS 3, which can give you a smoother experience in titles that have those options enabled. In real-world play, you'll find that most esports and competitive shooters sit comfortably above 100 frames per second at 1080p, while newer AAA releases like Starfield or Cyberpunk 2077 will settle into the 5070 frames per second range on medium settings. The key point here is that the GPU isn't going to let you max out ultra settings at 144 Hz, but it will let you stay in the sweet spot where you're not forced to lower your frame rate to maintain a fluid experience. Memory and storage are where the TUF A16 starts to feel like it's built for a specific audience. The 32GB of DDR5 RAM isn't just a number, it actually translates into smoother multitasking when you have a game running, a music production DAW open, and a web browser with dozens of tabs. If you're the type who likes to stream while you play, that extra headroom prevents stutters that can happen on laptops with only 16GB. The 1TB PCIe SSD is another solid choice. It loads Windows in seconds, and game installations are practically instantaneous. However, the SSD is a single-drive configuration with no extra M.2 slot for expansion, so if you anticipate needing more than a terabyte for a growing library of games and media assets, you'll have to rely on an external drive, which can be a hassle for people who travel often. Speaking of travel, the TUF line is marketed as tough, and the chassis does feel more rugged than a typical fine and light gaming laptop. The rubberized corners and reinforced frame can survive the occasional bump, but the overall weight sits around 2.5 kilograms, 5.5 pounds. That's not a backpack light ultrabook, it's a laptop you'll probably keep on a dedicated desk or a stationary gaming setup. If you're a commuter who expects to pull the machine out of a backpack for a coffee shop work session, the bulk may feel cumbersome. On the flip side, the backlit RGB keyboard is a pleasant nod to gamers, and the key travel is deep enough to make long typing sessions feel comfortable, which benefits video editors who spend hours on the keyboard. Battery life is another realistic consideration. The 90 battery can push through a few hours of light usage, think web browsing, email, and occasional spreadsheet work, but as soon as you crank up the RTX 4050 for a gaming session, you're looking at roughly an hour and a half before you need to plug back in. That aligns with most gaming laptops in this tier, but it's worth highlighting because many buyers assume a gaming label means all-day unplugged capability. If you need a machine that can double as a primary laptop for school or work without constantly hunting for a power outlet, you'll have to accept the trade-off. So,